Hi, I'm Sarah Burtonshaw, and for Milestone 2, my team tested another group's program called the Dysfunctional Organization System. What it is a command line program for managing companies' hierarchy. There's a president, a vice president, supervisors, and workers. The program also has rules about who can quit, lay off people, or just transfer employees. I was responsible for sections 5 through 7, which was the quitting, layoffs, and transfers. We actually got access to the source code, but I made a point not to look at it so I could use the black box testing. So I only paid attention to what the program actually did, not how it was written behind the scenes. The first question is which testing methods did I choose and why? I mainly used the three methods. The first was equivalence partitioning. Instead of just trying tests every single command, I grouped together situations that should work the same way. Each group had inputs that program was supposed to treat the same, and then I tested at least one example from each group, and that way I could cover all the important situations without wasting time on a bunch of repetitive tests. The second method was boundary testing. I used this for the company's capacity limits. For example, I tested transferring someone into a group with exact one opening positions. Then I tested the transferring someone into that group and it was already full. These limits matter because off by one errors almost always show up right at the boundaries. The third method I used was error guessing, so honestly this turned out to be the most interesting method for me, and I'll talk more about it in a bit. I did think about automating my tests, but for my sections, manual testing just made more sense. The commands had to be entered through the interactive prompt. I also needed to examine the organization chart and confirm that each employee moved to the correct position. It was just easier for a person to look at the result and see if things made sense, comparing it to the basic script could do. Since I only had 25 test cases, I do them by hand and was totally manageable and honestly felt more relatable. My next question is what testing I completed beyond my original plan. A few results actually made me stop and double check my work. The first was test case L-08. I originally wrote the program moved a supervisor to the wrong manager. That would have been a bug, but result honestly surprised me, so I reset the program and tried the test again, and the program had actually behaved correctly, and I made a transcript mistake in my notes. The next one was T02. I originally marked this transfer as passing. I later reviewed with the developers on the README addendum and then stated that the employee must transfer to a different manager. The program allowed an employee to transfer back to the same manager. Because of that clarification, I changed my result from a pass to a fail. It became my bug number 1. The third result was the L-10. I laid off a vice president and the program relocated that person into an empty vice president position. At first, I marked it as passing since it technically followed the relocate rule, but when my team looked at the full organization, we realized that the move felt that the vice president entire team standed underneath an empty position. That just wouldn't make sense in a real company. So we reclassified it as our bug number 2 for my section and became a part of the reason why our team decided that the program was not ready to ship. All these examples really come from the same habit I had been when I was testing. I just don't accept my first interpretation. If it feels off, always go back and check it again. My next question is how effective testing methods were. It would be easy to judge my work by just counting how many bugs I found, but honestly, the number of bugs doesn't tell the whole story. My strongest tests were actually the ones that were tried to guess what might go wrong. The layoff rule said that a be laid off employee had to move to the closest available position. A weak program might pass a simple test by moving the employee into any open position. To really test this, I made the organization files with decoy vacancies. These were open positions that looked available, but they were not the correct destination. That way, the program actually had to follow the relocation priority. It just couldn't pass by picking the first open spot it found. Those tests did not uncover any bugs. The program passed all of them. Still, those were some of my most valuable tests. A tough test that passes gives you more confidence than just a simple happy path one. These results showed that the program understood the relocation priority, and it was not just moving employees to random open positions. This honestly changed how I think about the software testing. A test doesn't just have a bug to be valuable. A strong test that passes can actually teach you a lot more than a weak one that passes. So that was my experience was like for this project. I went through each of the testing methods. I chose the additional testing and completed what the effective testing came to mean to me. Thank you for watching.